It's bad. Anime.
Hey everybody, I'm John.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Bad Anime, the show where we decide,
Is this anime bad?
And today...
We're watching a piece of shit. I'm sorry for
oh my god.
I'm breaking format a little bit, but because I'm gonna be so overwhelmingly negative in this episode. There's no reason to hide it. And this is truthful, ladies and gentlemen. When my buddy here said, "Hey,"
I'm sorry. I'm just reeling.
No.
Continue, please.
Because when
on your warpath.
No, it's fine. But it's funny because it is a warpath. But then I'm realizing at the same time, maybe not. I don't know. We'll talk about this together. Because when you brought up the whole idea, like, "Hey, let's do a podcast about bad anime," this was legitimately like one of the first, probably 3 I thought of.
Wow.
And how it came to the show is very interesting. You can see in the title, this was called Chivalry of a Failed Knight. The Japanese title, I don't know it. But anyway, so I came to this anime in a very interesting way.
Okay.
Because I was part of an anime club in college.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what day we'd meet. Funny thing, it was college. So what I would do...
That is already a funny thing, but
yes,
go on.
So what I would do is before every time I went, I would get bombed. And I'd have a flask of sake in my pocket and be in the room getting bombed. So people knew me as the really fun, loud guy because I would just show up. But of course, my memory of the show was a little spotty.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I was on Hulu probably, I'm going to say 2020, during the hard days of the pandemic, trying to find something to do.
Right.
Just scrolling through the anime section, I probably just finished all of High School DxD and was looking for something that looked kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking there's more anime about people in an academy and there's underdogs and whatever. This probably is going to be good. So I clicked on one thing, and then I heard the theme song, and I remembered the theme song. And,
wow.
One of the sections was like, "Dabba copy a brave new world." Hokotashi.
Yeah.
But I don't know the fucking words.
Yep.
But I'm hearing the song, I'm like, and then it's time to take a top. I heard all these lines. I'm like, how much of this show have I seen?
Yeah. That is an interesting part, actually.
So I'm rewatching. Like, I remember some of it, and this club was funny because for some reason they were insisting on everyone watching the sub, even though it was like anywhere from 40 to 60 people in a big lecture hall, all looking at the bottom third of a screen. I'm like, we should have just watched the fucking dub. It would have been easier.
Right. Would have been so much easier.
But anyway, so I came back to this show, and let's just say my first viewing experience, like on my own, wasn't very good.
I can tell that.
No, it was.
Oh my god,
I was not a fan at all for so many reasons. So I suggested it to you, and I'm letting you take the reins on this one.
Yeah,
I usually do some prep before these episodes. I'll rewatch a series or rewatch some key elements, reread some plot synopsises or whatever.
Synopsises? I think it's synopsises.
I don't know. Yeah, synopsis.
Well, let's go with that.
Let's go with that. If you want to,
we're gonna right click, add that to dictionary.
Yes,
right here.
Or send us an email if it's wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I didn't do any of that today. I wanted to go pure off my natural reaction and my memories of the show. I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna let you fill in the gaps for me because we've talked a little bit about it off camera, and I'm surprised how much I immediately remembered. Because you would mention something offhandedly, and I would go on a 3-minute restrained rant. So I want to save it for the podcast. So I'm gonna let you take the reins a little bit on this one.
Okay.
I am trusting you to guide the audience and me through this journey.
Very well. And I think, for the record, I think I might be the perfect person to do that.
Yes.
Because I will tell you right now. I watched the back half of this series, which means the last 6 episodes. It's a 12-episode season. I watched the final 6 episodes this morning.
Oh my god, that's great.
So I am entrenched. I know the plot. I know how everything goes. I know all the characters. honestly, I'm ready to go. I'm raring to go. I've been oiled up, and I'm just like ready to shoot me inside a.
Just start shooting on all cylinders. Start anywhere you like, and I'm just gonna add shit along the way when I see fit.
Great.
I'm also gonna be sipping some beer.
So the plot begins with our worst one, as he is referred to, Iki Kuragami.
Yes.
Iki Kuragami is an F rank knight at this university, at this school.
And there's Academy of Knights, right?
Yes. It cultivates knights, and it makes them into, I guess, that is not specified what they're supposed to do after they graduate, but they are knights.
And they're knights. And to explain, knights are just like these people with...
like magic-wielding people that use swords, a lot of sword imagery.
They summon weapons, right?
Yeah, it's like fighters.
Yes.
Fighters in this universe. And in this universe, a fighter is somebody who has two abilities. Yeah. Sword play, and also what they call as blazing, or a blazer, or magic of some variety. So they have those two abilities. So Iki is a very interesting scenario in this series because he is very, very, very proficient in sword play because his grandfather is a samurai. Yeah. But he is not very proficient in the magic side of things. Right. Which is the thing that holds him back, which is why he is an F-rank student in this school.
So, like, for example, there's other knights, as we meet them in the series, they have some of these incredible swords, incredible weapons. Some have daggers, some have even bows. Right. Like, very creative weapons. And he has a very simple katana.
It's a katana. Yeah, it's like a katana.
A black katana.
And I think the ability he has is called Ito. It's not exactly characterized specifically what it's for. No. that also is...
I had to do that. You just said Ito. I'm like,
You're right. Makoto Ito. But...
wow, your body reacted strongly to that.
Oh, God. It's Ito something. I forget the name of it. But he has this ability that just kind of...
I could theoretically try to pull
puts
it up.
him in, like, super mode, basically.
Yes.
With his katana. So that's kind of where we start. And it's him, and he's living his life. He's at this academy. His family hates him because... Ito Shura. Yeah, Ito Shura. Yeah. His family hates him because he's not as good as any other of the kids of the family, right? Yes. And
that comes in very funnily later.
Oh, boy, does it. And he is at this academy, and the first episode we go to is him in a conflict with a princess from another country. It's not specified what country, but her name...
a foreign land.
A foreign land, but her name is Stella Vermilion.
Rias Gremory. I'm sorry, Stella Vermilion. I'm sorry. When I saw Stella, I'm just like, oh, hi, Rias.
It's the same thing. Red hair. Yeah. Big personality.
No, she doesn't have personality. I know the joke you meant you were talking about her jumblies, but this girl doesn't have...
Jumblies.
This girl doesn't have personality. That was, high school DxD has implanted all these new synonyms for tatas in me. I just love talking about fun bags with my boys.
Fun bags with the boys. Yeah. But yes, they meet each other, right? And they're roommates. Obviously, it's like kind of a whatever, like a what is that thing called? Like with like gender neutral housing. Oh, like the Odd Couple.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
It's like two people that don't want to be... Well, she doesn't want to be in a room with him, I guess. But the first shot we get of him meeting her is he walks into this room and she's naked.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she's like, get out of my room. And he's like, but it's also my room. And so that sets like the tone for the show.
Right.
That it's a little more raunchy than I would have thought it would have been. Is the main thing.
I mean... Here's the thing. It was raunchy, but not super explicit.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like it was always like... It felt like it was always like wanting to go further than it did, from what I remember.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't super duper explicit. It's just funny how much it was trying to be sexy, but also kind of failing.
Yeah. It did kind of fail. Like in the title of the show, it did. It was a failed... a chivalry of a failed knight. But yeah, I mean, the gist of it is that they're both working through this academy, trying to become the best, like swords people and like fighters.
But I remember the plot point. There was that weird little plot point where they challenge each other to a duel.
Yes.
And like, what was the condition?
The loser has to be a slave to the winner.
Yep.
Which is mind-bogglingly crazy.
Yes. But the thing is, when I heard that, because look, like I said, when I came back to the show, my memories are super vague. I only remember the theme and some of the flashing fun light sequences and me going, ooh, because, I was hammered.
Yeah.
So, when I heard of that scenario, I'm like, oh, fuck, Iki's gonna win,
Right.
And it's gonna be that kind of like tied to the hip, like tsundere thing, where it's like, I don't like you, I don't like you. Oh, we're madly in love. Anyway,
Yep.
So they have their little duel, and I forget the specifics, but Iki pulls through.
Yeah, Iki wins somehow.
She's overconfident or something. It's a very humbling story.
Yes.
Honestly, very New Japan-esque and very similar to a New Japan Pro Wrestling storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Again, live action anime. If you listen to our monthly specials, I've said enough. Go watch those. Anyway, so now there's this weird dynamic between the two. They try to paint Iki in a very good light. Where I remember this. He's like, I command you to be my roommate. He's not gonna take any advantage of her. He immediately says, hey, like, no, fuck it, I'm not gonna make you be my slave. That's weird and dumb.
Yeah.
And of course, Stella goes, huh. She starts fawning over him almost immediately.
Yeah, immediately.
Because he's a semi-decent human. And I guess
Yes.
is he hunky? I don't know.
No, I mean, he's got like the slender boy look. I mean, he's
like slim, slender,
yeah,
tone muscle anime boy bod.
Tone muscle anime boy.
Anime twink.
Anime twink, but nowhere near like an Eren Yeager anime twink. But he's on that spectrum for sure.
On the spectrum of
He
anime
exists.
twinks. Yep.
He exists on that spectrum.
I think we need to do like a pie chart on this. No, not a pie chart. And it was a different graph. But anyway.
But yeah, so that's how kind of the show starts, and it I feel like at this point in the show, I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Go on.
But to the show's credit, and this is one of the most important things I think about the show that I think got me. Maybe not in the way it happened, maybe not in the way it was executed at all. But usually at this point in the show, right, when you have two characters that are clearly in love with each other but don't want to share their feelings, right?
Yeah.
They drag it out for a very long time.
Yeah.
This was not as dragged out as I anticipated it would have been.
Well, no, they dragged it out, but they went about it in a very roundabout way.
Yeah.
It was dragged out, but they
mhm.
didn't do it in the traditional method. So I get what you're saying in one way, because I remember they did early on. They were like, hey, wait, we have feelings for each other. And I remember there's an episode like midway through the series, one of the most painful scenes I've seen in any anime dubs of all time. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves, because in episode 2, I remember this very clearly, and this is one of the only funny things.
Oh my god!
Because we get introduced to another one of the big characters. It was Shizuku, the younger sister of Iki, who comes from the Kurogane or Kurogane family.
Yeah.
I'm just remember fucking reading them. Yep, it was Kurogane. So she comes from that family, and they just kind of run each other into the halls at school. And she's like, "Hey, haven't seen you in a while." He's like, "Yeah, ditto, kid. Haven't seen you in a bit." And she goes, "Cool." She just throws him against the wall and starts making out with him in front of everybody. And everyone's like, what the fuck? They're siblings.
That is legitimately your younger sister. And it is, wow. Honestly, since Angel Sanctuary, I have not seen just like such an outright declaration of incest in a show. This was crazy because, right, she makes that declaration that she wants to like be with her older brother.
Yes.
And wants to love him because nobody else can love him like she loves him, which is whoa. But okay,
I will give the show a little credit there. We'll get to that more as we get to the plot.
Yes, right.
That notion that's a very interesting idea. It wasn't executed well at all.
But after this, right? Then it's all about like Stella viewing Shizune as a competitor, right? Yeah. It's like they're both competing over the same guy. They both want the same guy, but the guy happens to be Shizune's brother, Shizuku, which is very weird when you think about that. But also because all the characters eventually, like Shizuku has this roommate, Alice.
Yeah. Alice.
Who is a man, but identifies as a woman. So very interesting on that. Like, not very explained in the show, mind you.
Yeah, no,
but
not at all. They did make zero attempts.
Throughout the show,
unfortunately, they are a punchline.
Yes. And throughout the show, she is encouraging Shizuku to, like, go for her brother. And I'm like, are people, like, actively wanting this to happen?
It's real life
wanting
shipping.
Incest to happen?
It's real life
right
shipping.
Here in front of my eyes instead of having this boy find somebody not in his family to like. It's weird.
Yeah.
It was just weird. throughout the show, and she's very persistent throughout the show.
Oh, she is totally persistent. And now I forgot about the Alice. And now I remember the Alice character. Yeah, was super supportive, and I feel like the writer was. I don't know who was trying to do this, but I think they were they trying to do like an analogy between true love and like it doesn't matter who you are, who you love, but there's like a difference between
Newsflash, it matters.
Yeah, well,
when you're siblings, it matters.
There's a difference between being gay and then trying to fuck your brother.
Yeah,
there's a big difference here.
Big difference.
I mean, I see. If you think I'm wrong, please say something.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Please write us an email because I would love to read that one.
But some of the best scenes in the show started at episode 2, because the relationship that I thought was the funniest or the most entertaining in the show was between Shizuku and Stella. Yeah,
it was. And this is where I have to give. Because I remember I told this to you briefly. We were texting while you were originally viewing the show. I have to give the voice actors credit because in the early batch of episodes, I don't know if it was them or the directors, but there was clearly effort put in.
Right.
So the best. The only positive I have when I think about the show is just Shizuku fairly regularly referring to Stella as fat.
Yeah.
At one point, she just calls her a fat cow. I'm like, oh my god!
I actually wrote down some of my favorite insults that they exchanged.
Please share.
Okay, so Stella calls Shizuku, who is a little less, has a little less in the boobage department.
Yes,
it's a big theme of the show. How everybody talks about how huge Stella's boobs are. So Stella tells Shizuku that she looks like an underinflated water balloon. Shizuku responds by calling Stella an overinflated sex doll, and top heavy. While Stella calls Shizuku ugly. Then Shizuku retorts with fat, and floppy. So there is the least I can say is that this was the most entertaining part of the show. By distance.
Again, like I said, by episode 2, I imagine the staff is still fully engaged, and they said, "Let's have fun with this. This can be something good. We have high hopes for this." Because you know how the dubbing process works. You break it down episode at a time.
Right.
I can see people being very enthused and saying, "Fuck it, let's go for it." And I remember they all go out into town one day. I remember it's the Four Mains. I'm skipping around events in my head. If I remember them,
no,
please
sure.
Correct me at whatever point because I'm going all memory here. We got Shizuku, we got Alice, we got Iki, we got Stella, all just being out and about like a day on the town type of scenario.
Yeah,
And of course, again, more romantic rivalry between a girl who is Iki's slave and the other girl that's his sister, each trying to fuck him. And Alice is like, ooh, in the background, just being a bad influence to everyone involved. Yeah, both Stella and Shizuku are like on Iki's arm, just like clinging, pulling him down with all their might. And I'm just like, huh. Cool. This was written by this. In my mind, like, okay, this is a porn plot, but cool, I guess.
It just really makes you think what they wanted to do with the show.
That's the thing.
Because, a lot of the emphasis is on the show is on Iki becoming like a higher rank student and going to this tournament called like the Seven Sword Festival or something like that.
Oh, right.
And he has to like win all of these matches. I think it's like about 20 matches in order to go to this seven sword festival or something like that.
And we see a little bit in the scene I was referring to when they were all out. There was actually like there was like a hostage situation or a bank robbery.
Right.
And next thing you know, they all busted and start flailing their swords around. I guess it might have been just an excuse for an action set piece. It's one of the few moments where you're like, okay, maybe Iki's kind of cool. What do you think of the action in the show? Because I assume it's one of the main draws is like, look at the swords. And then look at the waifu titties.
The action and like the tournament base around it all, and just like because
the series goes on, we do like to your point, we see because the whole academic system is based around them in these matches. I forget what the whole thing is, but like Iki has to win a certain number of matches. We see them. I vaguely remember one with like the guy who's like throwing a bunch of knives at him and shit.
Yeah. There's like a bunch of matches and like basically
I remember a lot of the show.
Things that he has to overcome. In due time, and what him and Stella agree that they are gonna win all of their matches.
Yeah,
and meet each other at the Seven Sword tournament or whatever it's called. I don't really care. They gotta get to that moment. So they're like working hard individually of each other.
But then there's moments they're training together, and I remember the scene pretty clearly because it killed me. 'Cause I'm like, garbage. Or like they're working out, and she's like, "You're fit," and he's like, "Thanks." And she's like, "Can I have some of your water?" And he's like, "I don't know. There's a lot of germs on it." And she goes, "Maybe." And she's in her breath, she's like, "Maybe I want those germs." And it's like, oh god, this is painful. I can feel the voice actors cringing while they're reading it.
Yeah.
Again, everyone in the dub tried. I'm going to give them credit. They all tried. And why? And because it's crazy. Because at the same time, the two main focuses are Iki and Stella going through the program for these tournaments, having these battles, whatever. Like fights, cool. Fight scenes, nice.
Right.
And then the entire time, they're also dealing with their budding romance. Because pretty early on, like you said, they do drag it out and they don't. Because
yes.
They don't drag out the part where they just go, "Hey, I like you. I actually have feelings for you. I'm ready to admit that." But this is very important. Midway through the series, there's a point where they realize, "Oh, we haven't done anything couple-like yet.
Like sexual, like kissed or anything, held hands even. It's very like...
Not even sexual. It's anything remotely romantic.
Yes.
And Stella's... I remember that line clearly where like, again, I felt so bad for the voice actress. You know, I'm not going to look up her name, but like I could tell it's just like she got the line and went, "Oh, fuck." Where, you know, I think Iki's getting into bed and while she's saying like, "Hey, we've been dating for a while now. Shouldn't we do what lovers do?" And then Iki's just up in bed. And she's like, "Well, fuck." I remember that scene very well. I'm like, okay, if you want to include a romantic subplot, absolutely fucking go for it. You know, a great romance subplot, especially in an action series, can work very well. It can really drive character motivations. It can drive a lot of emotions from that. Just the possibilities are endless. This was poopy.
See, the thing is, we're talking about it as an action series, and it is an action series in the way that like there's a fight every episode, there's like a conflict every episode, like
it's set in a combat-based academy.
Right. So there's like a lot of like matches and stuff like that, and eventually, you know, like obviously like they both win all their matches and like get to the end. But at the same juncture, like
spoilers,
it is more of a relationship romance series, I think, between the two of them, because as much as we've talked, we haven't really talked about any of the fights. We've only talked about like the scenes with them two.
Well, because
it's more prevalent.
Yeah, totally, and that's how actually the plot progression is way more romance relevant.
It is,
because from what I remember the series, it'd be romance. Oh, there's a fight now.
Right.
Like the romance was the driving force. The plot was like the fighting was secondary to the plot almost, which was very bizarre for an action series. It's usually the reverse.
And most of also the action was based off of things that were happening in the romance department. Notably, we meet this character mid-season, Isa, who has like purple hair. It's like over her eye a little bit. And she is the daughter of the last samurai. I don't remember his name, but he's considered the last samurai. And some guy beat up her dad and took her dojo, and so she's trying to get it back, right? We meet her.
That plot has been used so many times. I just fucking bumped into the microphone hard. That audio file is going to look very weird.
But she has been training. She starts training with Iki, right? And they train together. And okay, let me break down some of this. So there's a lot of like sexual stuff in this show that is very strange, because Iki at one point takes Isa in front of Stella, who is now at this point his girlfriend,
right,
and starts like touching her thighs and starts correcting her stance, and she's like sweating on her legs visibly.
Oh, I forgot about that scene.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh," and he's like, "What if you can stand like this?" And she's like, and I'm like, "You're teaching her swordplay, sir. Get it right. Get it together." Get it together.
Well, no, like, I can understand that kind of writing. I guess like he's the stupid boy.
It's very horny. It's super horny.
But like I can understand the character. Like they're trying to write. Because they write Iki as a complete idiot in terms of the romance department. Because it was the early 2010s. Where every character in these light novels were just like, I don't know what's happening. It's Ichika Orimura from Infinite Stratus. That's what it is.
Iki is classic oblivious boy.
Yes, and in his mind, it's like, oh, like, move your legs, and he's grabbing her thighs to do it, and fucking, but in that environment, I would imagine not every woman's gonna get super fucking soaked at the closest touch to certain areas of the body. I mean, that's just, it's just so absurd.
She at one point in that episode said, which this line killed me, and I'll read it out to you. You have very big and rugged hands, just like my father's.
I forgot about that line.
That, boy, did that send me to a new stratosphere, because my God, that was part of it. And right, so eventually, right, he beats her in a battle that she cheats in, but he's like, no, I have to teach her a lesson, so he beats her, and then he helps her get her father's dojo back by fighting this other guy that uses a spinal cord as a weapon.
I forgot about that. I'm now remembering about
he's a weird dude. He's a weird dude. I don't know much about this guy, but at the same time, right, all this is happening. So throughout the series, Iki is making friends, right? He's teaching people the art of swordplay, because everybody's a good blazer or like magic user, but doesn't exactly know how to use a sword correctly.
So he becomes essentially like a Rock Lee type character.
Yeah, like a Rock Lee, like a professor type presence to all these other kids.
He's the one guy who excels at everything because he's not good at the one thing.
Exactly. He has his like one like taijutsu, like that's his thing. He just does like the straight up like physical swordplay with like a special ability on the side where he has like also just different kind of like perfect vision is what they call it, where he can see what they're doing before they do it,
right?
And he can like read people's movements and like copycat them as they go,
right?
But either way, right, that's really the back burner of the series. That's not the most important part. Is the fights. It's really the relationship between him and Stella, and that gets like very exasperated as the series goes to like where they become boyfriend girlfriend. They have a scene where it's raining, and they get into a little lodge together, and she's like, "I'm so sick, I can't even take off my own clothes," and he's like, "Oh, you should definitely take your clothes off because it will constrict your lungs less." And he helps her take off all of her clothes, and they're just kind of hanging out. And she's like, "Do you want to have sex with me?" And he's all like, "No, because I respect you." And she's like, "Fuck, I want him even more." It's wild.
Well, no, the thing is, I think I've seen that scene like 7 or 8 times in different shows. Like,
yep.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. Dear listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they do that in Quintessential Quintuplets? I feel like they did.
What a name for a show.
No, it's great. It's great. Actually, that's a good anime. I remember at one point joking about it on the podcast, like, we should cover it. I'm like, no, we shouldn't. That show's fucking good. It's just a good. It's probably one of the better harem rom-coms I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no. So yeah, that typical plot point, like, oh, we should fuck. No, you're vulnerable. I want you more.
And then that kind of takes us to the last few episodes of the series, because there is this.
Okay, sorry. Can we go back? To
continue? Yes,
because you missed the pool episode. Which,
oh my God, I legitimately texted you about that episode when it was happening, because I was like, of course, there's a pool episode.
And speaking of pool and water, I gotta piss. Pause the episode.
It's pee.
Yeah, so the pool episode gets me mad on several levels. I mean, because in anime communities, we typically refer to this as the beach episode.
Right.
Sometimes it's not a beach, it's at a pool. It's typically an excuse to get our leads into a bunch of bikinis and get the fans going, woohoo! But hopefully, there's usually something there. It's either there's, you have all that fluff, all the fun, but, there's nice character moments. Maybe the plot moves.
A furthering of a romance angle.
Or you do some world building.
Yeah,
I can actually reference a couple shows we've covered. Darling and the Franxx did the whole world building,
right? Like the Forgotten City, that kind of whole thing.
And if I remember, in School Days, wasn't it the pool episode where Makoto just did town on Sekai for the first time? I'm pretty sure that was a pool episode.
Don't ever,
wow,
bring up School Days again. No, we can talk about School Days.
No promises there.
It's fine.
No promises at all. Wow, you seemed offended at that one.
Continue. Sorry.
Anyway, no, but this pool episode, as I remembered, it offered nothing, and I was very mad.
Yeah,
it was just a bunch of people going, "Hey, you guys are boyfriend and girlfriend, but you're not getting along."
Mm-hmm.
The voice acting was so stilted. either stilted or so by the numbers. It sounds like it's for example, if I spent the rest of this podcast lazily on my phone texting people, you would notice because I sound disinterested and disengaged.
Right.
That's how it sounded to me when I heard this. And the dialogue between Iki and Stella, I was so mad. They get trapped under like this waterfall type thingy, and it's the two of them having to confront their problems, air quotes.
Yeah.
Whereas both of them going, well, I like you. Well, I like you a lot. I like your body. I like your boobs. It was so boilerplate, so nauseating to hear. And I feel bad for the voice actors because I told you about this before. I feel like at this point they just gave up. They realized, okay, the show had some chance for charm at the beginning. It's gone.
Completely messed it up. Yeah.
I think halfway through, they're like, fuck it. This show is just kind of horny and there's going to be a fight scene every once in a while. Yeah. Let's stop trying. That's what I felt.
I think at that point, they kind of did mess it up a little bit, but they did something new for me, at least.
Okay.
Because as I mentioned before, usually... like, I come from, like, a shonen background. So when I see, like, a romance, I'm like, oh, so basically what's going to happen is for the next 5 seasons, they're going to tease this, and then they're finally going to get together at the end of the show. I was very shocked when they got together in, like, episode 4 or something. I was like, wow, I genuinely didn't think this was going to happen by that time. Did not think about that. It caught me by surprise. So, I mean, maybe that's the one, like, merit I give it, is that it caught me specifically by surprise a little bit with, like, oh, we're boyfriend-girlfriend. And I was like, oh, wow, they just did it. They're not going to, like, drag it out for, like, 4 more seasons and then get together at like, some sort of finale or something like that, you know?
With my random experience with those random shows, I wasn't too super surprised. But I understand where you're coming from.
But, you know, it gets to the end of the show, and he proposes to her.
Yeah, and there's a whole bullshit with his dad, who runs who's like a big guy in the Knights Council.
He's like into some bullshit, and like the whole thing.
There's a scene where like Shizuka goes there, and it's like, you're very mean to Iki, and he's like, oh yeah, because he sucks, and she's like, no, this family hates him. I'm gonna go love him. I'm gonna go love him. Give enough love to compensate. Which, would be cool if she, like, made him meals and just, like, offered to help him out, like a sister would. Not, hey, let me stick my tongue down his throat and let me see if he wants to, like, do me. I mean, that's not how not all love has to be sexual. That's what I'm saying.
And that's the thing, because it also, on the dad thing, right? It got to those last few episodes, which the style of the last few episodes was fucking weird, by the way. The final 2 episodes, like, did they think they were pulling some Anno shit or something? Because the last 2 episodes were, like, very, very weird. Yeah. In that, like, there was a lot of scenes where, like, characters would do, like, a screenshot of them and then, like, a dialogue. And then it would be, like, the thing that they said with kanji under it. It's like, fear. Yeah. And then it would shift to the next one. There was that, and it was also, everything was really grainy in the last 2 episodes on purpose because it had like kind of an overlay on it that made it look like old film.
Yeah.
And it was all black and white, and there were all colors coming everywhere. It was like Death Note and Evangelion just shat on this anime for some reason. They just ate that feces, and it just became this anime.
They were trying to, like, I don't know, they were trying to be a little artsy.
They were trying to be very artsy, and I will give them one thing that absolutely cracked me up. So in the last few episodes, we were introduced to kind of the student body president, right? The student council president. I don't remember her name. Tobu something. Tobu Taki or whatever. She has this sword called Raikiri with like electricity and stuff like that. And she beats Shizuku in a fight. And then she has to fight Iki in like his final round where he gets to go to like the Seven Blades tournament or whatever.
He was like kidnapped beforehand.
Right, he was kidnapped by, it's very unclear. He was kidnapped by like one of his father's associates to be put down. He like talks to his father and he's like, "Father, I'm doing well though." And his father's like, "You were never supposed to do well." And I was like, that's just a weird argument to make, that he was never supposed to. So his father's argument is all about Iki was not good at fighting, and he was never supposed to be, which is why his dad's mad, which is very weird. And then he gets kidnapped, right? He's in like a jail, and he's like having his matches in jail and stuff like that. It's just really weird. Like, why is he even kidnapped? Because he was like doing something with Stella, and they were in a relationship, and people considered that like taboo. So
there's like some like legality in the rules
it just
or whatnot.
didn't make any fucking sense.
No, the whole thing was supposed to be like that. If I remember correctly, it was very much he was supposed to be the babyface in peril, where it was like the heels have everything stacked up against you.
Right.
It's because a lot of Japanese media loves underdog stories.
Yeah.
Hence all of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yes.
So it's a classic underdog tale.
And I guess maybe you can see it from how much I'm like rambling and how much like different sides of the plot I'm talking about at the same time, because it was all like happening at the same time and really nothing was being said.
No.
Which was the problem.
Because that's the thing. They would replace plot progression with more fight scenes and more scenes of Stella and Iki going, I don't know how I feel about you.
It just didn't make any sense. And also, one thing I wanted to point out specifically.
Go ahead.
Raikiri, the sword that Tobu has, or like the student council president has.
Right.
I laughed my ass off at one point in this show because of this. So at one point, this like student council president, she is in this battle. It might have been against Shizuku, I think. But she like blades Shizuku really hard with like the electric blade. And just like the film nerd in me, the aspect ratio broke.
Oh, right. Yeah,
so like she like slices Shizuku, and then like it was a horizontal video and it becomes like vertical and horizontal and it pushes out the aspect ratio. And I thought that was fucking hilarious because she just like single-handedly broke the aspect ratio of this anime that I'm currently watching. Nothing has taken me out of an anime as much as that in recent memory, and it was very funny.
I mean, that's classic Anno stuff. It's clear the influence were like
yes.
It's something trying to break the fourth wall, trying to be more meta. That's like such Anno 101. And at this time, no, I'm not going to say the I'm not sure the timeline of the rebuild on this one, but no. So classic Ava playbook. Anno's Anno. Everyone loves him. They were trying to be Anno for 2 episodes.
They really were. And the last 2 episodes were like whatever.
And then of course there was the painful scene where like he has like the killing blow or whatever. He wins the whole thing in one strike. Of course, classic underdog story. And then he's like, Stella, I want to marry you. The crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys are fucking dorks. They're kids.
And that's how the show ended, basically, for the first season. But yeah.
There is no season 2.
Thank God. We don't need one. We really don't need one. It is okay.
No, you saw the total cliffhanger. It's like these people are selected to go on to the next round.
Yeah.
Because all these light novel adaptations at the time ended with the cliffhanger.
Right.
It's like, hey, come back for season 2, and it's joke's on you. You're not fucking getting one.
Yeah, because it's not good enough to get a season 2 for sure.
Oh. Okay, so you're already throwing down some opinions.
I am.
You already know mine.
I know you started this, but please reiterate. Please reiterate your opinion. Was this anime bad?
Yes. I mean, it's just unequivocally bad. I mean, for me, it was the total absence of charm. And I feel like so many characters were included not out of passion, but out of a checklist.
Yes.
They were trying to appeal to as many demographics as possible. You had the incestuous little sister. You had the one, and Alice, who was like genderly ambiguous. I feel like they were playing to a lot of fetishes. They were trying to write a horny romance series, but then also have some fight scenes in there. And the fight scenes, I don't really remember them too well. I mean, basic is the word I would use best to describe them. Like they were like okay at most.
Yeah.
But there was nothing driving enough in the plot to keep me invested in those. And the fact that I watched so many episodes of this and then completely forgot about it, and the only thing that I remembered was the fucking theme song, says something.
Yeah,
this show was not good at all. It was bad. It was pretty darn bad. And the only reason I get so riled up about it is because no one talks about it.
It was very forgettable, I will say. Even having watched it this morning, I gotta say that there are a lot of elements about this show that are very, very forgettable.
Yes.
And that you do not need to have ever again. I think like there were some bright spots, I gotta say.
Okay.
Shizuku and Stella, the relationship there was genuinely very funny and entertaining. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed the name calling. It was just very fun.
Yes.
Iki as a character is
he's every anime character.
Yeah, he's just kind of the template, like very oblivious,
and here's the
very
thing.
strong, but very like underdoggy kind of character.
And it would
like,
mean so much more if like, because Shizuku kept bringing up like how badly the family treated him.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great if we fucking saw any of that in the character.
We didn't see any of that.
That's
None
what pissed me off the most because, again, going back to Ava, you saw Shinji's troubles.
Yes.
You know how fucked up the kid is.
Right.
That's what made the show work.
Right.
You saw it. With this kid, you are told.
Iki
You never see his personality. You are told
Yes.
it constantly. Everyone else surrounds this kid and says, he's this, he's that, he's this. We never see any of it. He is a blank fucking slate. I'm suddenly very hot.
You see in the show no signs of this guy's personality. None from him. He is very like restrained most of the time. He is very like, all right, just want to keep the people around me safe, the people I'm close to. But at the same time, he always talks about his like troubled past and whatnot. And it's
And
like,
barely he, though. It's other people bring it up.
we don't know much about it because it's surmised that he was hated by his family.
It's really,
And that's
it's
really it.
Shizuku's role in the story is to blab about how badly the family treated him and then try to fuck him. That's her entire role in the story. And it's very bizarre they had to mix those two. You could have just done with like the, hey, by the way, he's fucked up, Stella. Give him time. That's something a sibling would do.
I just can't.
They would go up to, if they were like, hey, met their brother's girlfriend and they knew about their brother's past. That's such a natural, very appropriate sibling thing to do. Go like, hey,
Right.
I know you might have feelings for my brother, but just so you know, he's had a very troubled childhood. It's going to come up. Be ready for it. Be there for him. That's natural. Not, hey, my brother's had a very troubled past, so I'm going to fuck him to make sure he's okay. That's not how any of that works.
That's not how any of that works, for sure. And with all that considered, and with everything considered, I will say I was entertained from time to time.
Okay. If you see a dog fucking on the side of the road, it's also entertaining for like 10 minutes.
And I guess that's the closest that I could get because it's bad.
Yay!
It's bad. It is not good. It is
so happy. I was scared there for a minute, Bouncy. You had me afraid. I'm like, oh my god, if he says it's okay, I'm going to.
I almost thought it was okay, but after kind of like talking about it for a while, after talking it out for a bit, it's bad. It's just
bad.
like zero redeeming qualities for this anime. Really, like even in the characters, like there's not one character that I actually like.
Yeah, no.
I thought about the end of it, and I was like, it's like I'm watching HBO's Girls. I hate all the characters. I don't like any of them. So why am I watching this show? It was like. Once I finished, I was like, the last few episodes were tough to get through.
Yes, they were.
Because it was just, oh my God, I was on TikTok half the time. And then by the end of the show, I was like, you know what? That did positively nothing for me. I would guarantee that it does positively nothing for nobody. And it is just kind of worth nothing and doesn't last. So I give it a proper bad.
And today we did a service to tell people about it because not enough people are talking about this anime. It's gone completely under the radar, and it deserves to be known that it's bad. So I'm afraid that people like me are going to be scrolling through Hulu who don't have the streaming services yet for other anime. They're like, oh, it's on Hulu, so I'm going to click it, and that's the worst thing you could do.
Yep. Stay away.
The show is bad, and that's all I have to say.
And that's it, baby. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on another very fun episode of Bad Anime.
We will see you next time.
It's bad.
Wow, oh my god, what a rousing podcast of anime conversation. Am I right, my compares? Am I right, my weebdom? Anywho, yeah, you can send us a message if you want. Did you like this podcast? Did you hate this podcast? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drench me in Calaxosaur blood and watch me drink it? That's fine. Just send us an email at badanimepod@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram at badanimepod, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube as Bad Anime, and you can leave a comment on whatever video you want to leave a comment on. We'll read them all anyways. We don't care. I love you. Kiss, kiss.
In your ear. Podcast Network.